Well, thank you, Rick, for that kind introduction. It's always wonderful to be home in Chicago. You know, I grew up in a family that made everything from railroad tank cars to medical equipment. So I was raised with a real appreciation of the American manufacturing tradition. But today, as Secretary of Commerce, I have had the opportunity to see firsthand the modern reality of our industrial base, and also to work closely and partner with manufacturers across our country to strengthen this critical sector of our economy. Whether it's on the factory floor at SpaceX outside Los Angeles, where I talk to workers who are building spacecraft that may one day take us to Mars, about how we could keep our manufacturers on the cutting edge. Or at ArcelorMittal in Cleveland, where they manufacture steel, obviously, I saw how the Commerce Department's enforcement of trade laws can protect an industry that forms the foundation of everything from our cars to the bridges those cars drive on. Or at a high school in Dalton, Georgia, where I met a young apprentice who is learning to create the carpets of the future, thanks in part to our department's commitment to expanding training focused on leading sectors in each region of our country. Over the past 3 years as secretary, I have seen firsthand the strength and resilience of American manufacturing. And I've also seen how your ability as manufacturers to innovate, to make, and to sell to the world was critical to digging ourselves out of the recession. 8 years ago, no one could have predicted the resurgence of manufacturing that we're seeing today in our country. After a half a century of steady growth, it took just 9 years for the industry really to be decimated. Our manufacturing sector lost approximately a third of its workforce. 60,000 factories closed their doors, sending the country into crisis. And many people really began to doubt that U.S. manufacturing would ever be growing again. But today, even in the face of global headwinds, there are 828,000 more Americans in manufacturing jobs than just 6 years ago. And your companies are looking to fill over 350,000 jobs. After a steep drop in the first decade of the millennium, the number of factories in the United States has started to increase again. And for 4 years in a row, CEOs from around the world have named the United States the best place to make and invest. And we've seen new capital investment in a broad range of manufacturing sectors. So let's be clear, and as many of you in this room know, the last 2 years has not been easy for many manufacturers. Weaker overseas demand, a stronger dollar, and a sharply lower commodity prices all have caused new orders, production, and employment to stall, and companies to draw down inventory. But it's important for us to distinguish between these short-term trends and the long-term fundamental strength of U.S. manufacturing. In my view, as someone who spent 27 years in the private sector, there are 3 key reasons why Made in America remains the best brand in the world: our people, our business climate, and our capacity to innovate. Today, I want to talk about how we can strengthen these 3 assets and in turn continue to grow U.S. manufacturing. First and foremost, our people and our workers are America's most precious resource. They're the engine that powers the manufacturing machine. You know that. If our country is going to outcompete and continue to lead the rest of the world, we must prepare our workforce for the jobs of the 21st century. Under President Obama's leadership, our administration has invested heavily in preparing our children and our workers for the high-tech, high-wage jobs of today and tomorrow. We're making college more affordable, job training more available, and funding for workforce development more sensible. At the Department of Commerce, we've made job-driven training a priority for the very first time. Through our Skills for Business agenda, we bring employers to the table to define precisely what they're looking for in their prospective employees. And we do this locally. We partner with employers to implement effective training models like apprenticeship programs. And we work with educators and trainers to ensure that they're providing in-demand skills. But to continue leading in a global economy, we must never stop improving our workforce development efforts. For example, we know that it is not enough simply to arm America's workforce with the skills to compete. We must also engage the next generation of workers and excite our youth about the potential of a career in manufacturing. Among young people today, manufacturing still ranks last as an industry career choice. And we must change that perception of manufacturers as outdated factories filled with line jobs. And that's why the Department of Commerce has created Manufacturing Day. Last year's Manufacturing Day saw over 400,000 students and adults participate in more than 2,400 open houses, tours, career workshops, and other events across the country. This year, on October 7th, this year's Manufacturing Day, we want to do even better. So I'm asking you, please, to consider hosting an event. Invite a class from your local schools and their career advisors to tour your plant so they can experience these exciting work and the career opportunities that exist in today's 21st century manufacturing. You can find more about Manufacturing Day at mfgday.com. Our country's prosperity starts and ends with our people. But our business climate is another huge factor as to why foreign companies choose to invest in the United States and why American companies like yours are bringing their production home. Consider all that our country has to offer: a strong rule of law and intellectual property protections, predictable regulations and a consistent judicial system, cheap and abundant sources of energy, low tariff rates, and a supportive local governments that make it easy to do business in their communities. It's no surprise, therefore, that the World Bank named the United States one of the easiest places in the entire world to do business. But even with our success, this administration is laser-focused on continually improving the business climate across our country. For example, while the United States already offers significant market access through free trade agreements with 20 countries, we know that that is not sufficient. Our entire administration is committed to enacting new trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which will open doors to the Asia-Pacific market, the fastest growing region in the world. Now let me be frank. I know that globalization, coupled with advances in technology, is disrupting some in our communities, some of our workers, and some of our businesses. Many, understandably, are feeling left behind. But the existence of these forces, globalization, advances in technology, does not mean that we should turn our back on trade or new trade pacts, especially high standard agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we negotiated an agreement that levels the playing field for our workers and our manufacturers, protects the environment, and ensures that other countries abide by our tough labor laws. Our challenge now is to generate the public will needed to pass TPP before the end of the year. If you believe the Trans-Pacific Partnership will create more customers for your business and more growth for our economy, I ask you to be vocal about your support, because we cannot call ourselves a pro-growth nation while denying American workers and American businesses the opportunity to compete and win through our modern globalized economy. For the United States to remain a step ahead of the competition and thrive now and into the future, market access alone is not enough. We also need a cutting-edge manufacturing sector. Recognizing that American competitiveness is at stake, President Obama created the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation. The advanced manufacturing institutes in this network break down silos between the U.S. private sector and academia to collaborate on taking industry-relevant technologies from lab to market in 5 to 7 years. In just 4 years, the network has grown to over 1,300 members and working on 240 technology development projects. Today, the network's members include 2/3 of the Fortune 50 and 8 out of 10 top-ranked research and development universities, and more than 1/3 of the member companies are small and medium-sized enterprises. So if you're not already a member, regardless of your size, I encourage you to connect with my team and learn more about how your company can benefit from joining one of these advanced manufacturing institutes. We want all of you to participate. The Department of Commerce runs the network of these institutes that today consists of 9 different organizations, and we will grow that to 14 institutes by the end of the year. Through this network, we enable the sharing of best practices to develop new technologies, to manage the supply chain, to introduce new products to market, and to attract and retain the talented workforce needed to support 21st century manufacturing. Our department also has the sole authority to establish new institutes in technology areas selected by industry, not by government, meaning selected by you, not by the government. We plan to announce the first Commerce Department sponsored industry-chosen Advanced Manufacturing Institute early next year. I'm very excited about this. As new market technologies continue to emerge from these institutes and industry identifies new areas for growth, we need to ensure that Congress provides adequate funding to make our current institutes sustainable and ensure that these hubs keep American manufacturing ahead of the competition. To see the value of this network, look no further than the Digital Manufacturing and Design Innovation Institute right here in Chicago, where researchers are developing an augmented reality-based training system for workers. So if you've ever tried, for example, Pokemon Go, I can see all of you have out here. Anyway, it's a lot like that, except that instead of catching monsters, You point your camera at a piece of machinery, and the screen shows you exactly how to operate it. At another institute 500 miles south of here in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the Institute for Advanced Composite Manufacturing Innovation, they're not only attracting new companies like Orion Composites and Local Motors to the region, but they're inventing new materials that make the impossible possible. For example, they partnered with Oak Ridge Laboratory to develop a 3D printed home that uses its own energy to power a 3D printed car. And you could see both of these this week at the Energy Technology Center. So with the incredible success of this initiative, let's be honest, it deserves better branding. I don't know about you, but as far as acronyms and names go, National Network of Manufacturing Innovation, or NNMI, it's not the catchiest phrase. So today, I am thrilled to announce Manufacturing USA. With our new name, Manufacturing USA captures the geographic reach of a network of advanced manufacturing institute that spans our entire nation and is positioned to benefit companies of all sizes, your companies, from coast to coast. But more importantly, this name embodies our vision for a unified manufacturing sector where the brightest minds and the most innovative companies come together to develop the most cutting-edge technology in the world. Ultimately, our work to make Manufacturing USA successful is about ensuring Made in America is not just one of the world's best brands, but the hallmark of an innovative, constantly evolving industry that builds lasting careers and stronger communities. From Samuel Slater's textile mill to Henry Ford's Model T to today's 3D printers, we are a country that innovates, a country that makes, a country that sells to the world. By working together to out-collaborate, out-innovate, and out-compete the rest of the globe, I am confident that America's manufacturers, each of you in this room, will continue to spur and sustain our dynamic, growing economy for years to come. Thank you for inviting me to join you today.
I'm just going to grab those scissors in 1 second. Okay. Thank you, Secretary Pritzker. I'd like to thank the Secretary for not only taking time from her busy schedule, but more importantly for her leadership at Commerce Department and helping drive manufacturing in the United States. It's greatly appreciated by all of us in manufacturing. And while we have you here, and speaking of cutting edge, we're going to grab those rather awkward looking, I think big area additive manufactured scissors and truly use the cutting edge to open up the show. So Rick, if I could have you come back up.